Welcome back to Latino Free Minds, episode number 20. Hope everyone's been having a good day. Thanks for the people that are, going to tune in live, or the people that listen afterwards on the audio only. Thank you for supporting and tuning in as well. So on this episode, we have Melinda Ann. She is the communication director of LUCA, right? Okay, I want to make sure I said that right. Of LUCA, which is Latinos United for Conservative Action. So, we're glad to have her on, kind of talk about LUCA and what they're doing there, and then just also touch on some current events. I think we all have some opinions or something to say about the Durham investigation. So, we'll see how that goes. But if you want, Melinda, introduce yourself and let the people know about LUCA.
Yes, thanks for having me, you guys. I've done a couple of shows now, and you know that this is one of my absolute favorite things to do, is just not only speak to my fellow Americans, but to speak to my fellow Latinos, right? And all of the most important things that matter in this country. It's so important that we're all involved. So my name is Melinda Ann. I am the founder of New Mexit. So that stands for New Mexicans Exiting the Democrat Party. I founded that organization in New Mexico, where I am from. I have 3 grown daughters. And it took for me to realize that I watched my daughters kind of struggle raising my grandbabies in New Mexico. And I had already started politically, really getting involved, and said, wow, my state is really not progressing. We really aren't going anywhere. And so my newfound love for politics and how government works really forced me to dive into the policies and the laws and everything in New Mexico. And I really learned so much. And that's what's important, is that we learn. We educate ourselves, and we learn about how our government is ran in each, respected state, where all of our states are different. And so I could go on and on about New Mexico. We've come a long ways. We are now, nationally and internationally noticed. And so that's really helped the people of New Mexico a lot, because we were unnoticed for so long, and nobody realized the real issues we're over 50% Hispanic in New Mexico, and we have 21 Native American tribes, and nobody really realized the issues that were at hand there. So I fell in love with that so much. So after that, and really getting out there using social media and whatnot, I was approached by Jesse Woodlexit and became the New Mexico ambassador for his organization, as well as Marco Guterres, who is the original founder of Latinos for Trump. And so I was the New Mexico ambassador there. So, it's just been something that I love. And now I have the opportunity to work with the CEO. His name is Tony Renteria. He is a board member of the Hispanic 100. He's also the CEO. I'm wearing the shirt today of Poder Latino. LUCA is a branch off of Poder Latino. We're a 501c4 organization. And, we work side by side on Poder Latinos with the evangelicals. Really important to get our churches back involved in everything that we do, because, we've really lost our way with God in this country. Our children, everything, we can really see how that is just surrounded by not having God at the forefront of it all. And so LUCA is going to be the branch where we really get in the nitty gritty and the grime of the conservative action politically, where we are working in the within the communities. We're building an amazing team right now for LUCA, so that we can really get the work done where we need it. And that's in the communities. That is showing up to those sessions. That's writing letters, formal letters to our congressmen, congresswomen, our House members, everybody that we need to hold accountable, right? And really work within our community to make sure that we're all getting involved. Because the importance off of that, and what I love about LUCA is, I've shared before, I was very honored to be on a couple of phone calls with President Trump while he was in office. And I know you've heard this, but so that way for your audience. And one of the biggest things that he did, which I will never forget, he brought all the community leaders together across the country, and he would get us on a phone call and he would mentor us and really just tell us, look, this is what's important. Continue to work in your communities, continue to work with your people, educate them, talk to them. You know, they didn't want us to talk, right? If we were Republican or if we supported Trump, it was like, you know, stay away. You know, we weren't invited to the carne asadas anymore, right? We were banned from the familia. We were, you know, we weren't allowed anymore. And I think that's where we really went wrong.
Yeah.
And so President Trump really just said, I can't be here forever, right? And so, you know, spread this information, spread this, you know, to all of the people that you love, that you know, and, you know, organizations like you doing shows where we can really reach out to our communities, because we obviously don't have a media anymore. We do not have a media any longer. So we have to become the media. And so I still show up to the carne asadas whether I'm invited or not. And they know, oh, here comes Melinda. You know, we're about to get an earful. But, you know, it's okay because it's worked with many of my family members. And it's really awesome to watch. And I just had like a 5-hour conversation with one of my, she's like an adopted daughter. I took her in when she was younger. She was not having it with Trump. The other day we had a 5-hour conversation, and she's like, Mom, you are motivating me. Like, I want to get out and do stuff now. So I really hope that's what we get from this, is that we help motivate other people to understand that we, the people, are the ones, you know, we're the fourth branch of government that has been ignored, and our voices matter the most. And we have been shut down, and they try to shut us up for too long. So that's one of the biggest things that I really just loved about President Trump, is that he wanted to make sure that all of us, people like you, people like me, that we continue to do what we're doing and never give up, and really understand what it means to hold this government accountable. And it's going to be the only way that we're going to make a difference.
Yeah, that's really good. It's refreshing to hear that he had that type of message. And what I'm getting from it is that he's acting like a real leader, like a true leader, and he's empowering people to become leaders. So by giving you guys the message is like, don't sit back, go out there, spread, you know, the message, you know, to wake up people and show them what is really happening in this country. So that's refreshing to hear. That's a good sign.
I was like, I was never invited by Obama, you know, or Bush or anybody, but I mean, it was really brilliant. I mean, if you think about it, you're right. He's a leader. He says, you know, this is the only way. And so since I know I'm not going to be here forever, do not stop. You know, states have more power and more sovereignty over the federal government anyway. So it's up to us to understand, like what myself and my sister Audrey, you guys will see more of us, because she ran for Secretary of State in New Mexico. Unfortunately, it was stripped from her. But we're about to get really active again. And that's what happened. You know, we got to motivate our people. We put together a rally in Santa Fe, New Mexico. 3,000 people showed up. NBC News flew in from New York and did a docuseries on what we're doing in New Mexico, because they're like, we've never heard of New Mexico, which is true. We're, you know, people think we're not part of America. And so, you know, they really didn't understand the true issues that we live with every day. We're one of the poorest states. We're in the top for the highest crime. And most of our Native American tribes live in poverty. Huge for child trafficking. Many people didn't even know that Jeffrey Epstein had a big ranch there in Santa Fe, New Mexico, wide open border. So you can only imagine. So there's so much. And so it's important that we all learn and really get involved in our own states, because we're all unique. We're all different. Our laws are different. And that's going to be the only way, and then build in the communities, and continue to build and invite people on. And what Audra and I used to do when we'd have our shows, again, we're going to get started up again, we would just bring on everyday citizens just to give messages to our corrupt governor, give them a platform, give them a voice and share those everywhere. So because we know she was following us, we were being silenced a lot. So we got to get real creative and just really band together. And that's how we're going to make a change from state to state.
Yeah, that's one thing you're right. You don't really hear a lot about New Mexico. I mean, It's right there. You hear about Arizona, Texas, but it's like, if like New Mexico wasn't there, like,
yeah.
Well,
you're right. We're being heard now. We really are. If you look at the news, they're starting to really highlight our governor, highlight a lot of the corruption that is happening there. She paid off a guy. She grabbed his crotch and she paid him off. Where's CNN at? Bringing out that story. Where are those ladies or are there men that wear those pink hoo-hoo hats, to go and protest? I mean, there's a lot of corruption going on. So, and it feels good, to have the community come together. And when NBC News did that story, it was like when they released it, it was like NBC Boston, NBC Miami, NBC Connecticut, NBC LA. Finally, New Mexico was being heard on a national level. So we really got a lot of support. And thank God my sister, when she ran for New Mexico Secretary of State, she got a lot of national support, which she was the top 3 candidates that was talked about in the country when she ran. So, it just feels good as a community, right? To be able to accomplish all of that. So that's what we want to do with LUCA as well. And, we have to be that action behind the work. So we hope to inspire and help and become national so that many people carry on what President Trump, really wanted us to do.
No, that's really good, because if you guys are setting the model for other states, to do the same thing and be heard and actually speak to the truth that is happening in those states, because we talk about this all the time, is your mainstream media is there. First of all, I don't know, we think that they are the minority and we are the majority, so they're keeping our voice down. So if you set the, I guess the model to follow and break through that bullhorn that is the mainstream media, technology is on our side right now. That's so right. And hopefully, it's just a matter of time, in my opinion, that people like you, are going to kill the mainstream media. They're not going to exist any longer here pretty soon, in my opinion, anyways.
I'm with you with that one, amigo. They need to be shut down, and I think we can all say that we can sit back and throughout these years, we've actually watched them depreciate, right? They had to shut down major buildings and, cut back on staff. And so it's happening. It's not happening as fast as we'd like for it to happen, but that's why it's important. And that's why I love coming on these shows. And, I've been doing this now for about 5-6 years, but these are the shows that I love the most, and so I hope that we can inspire others, share your content, share the word, share the education, and essentially, we have to take our country back.
Yeah. And that's the thing that we've talked about before on the show too, is, there's a lot of things that we would like to be kind of instant, you know what I mean? Yeah. We would love to correct this right away from one day to another, but it's going to take time. It's a long battle. And, the way Danny had put it before was, you got to pump the brakes on it. Do what you can to pump the brakes. And little by little, you start stopping all this craziness from happening until it's completely done. So, yeah.
It took 5 hours with my daughter the other day, 5 hours of a conversation. And she's like, Mom, you made me feel so comfortable, right? And I think that's another thing that I really want to speak on, is because what I shared with her, I said, honey, they divided us in the very beginning, right? Trump, we were so divided. And so they didn't want me to talk to you the way I'm talking to you right now. They wanted us doing this because that saying is very strong and it has deep meaning. United, we are going to stand, and divided, we are going to fall. And the day before that, I've been on my Instagram, I battle it out. And if he's ever watches this, he knows who he is. And he is an African-American man. He says he's a black man. He's a black American. And we disagree on so many things. Well, he actually called me on Instagram and I said, let's go. I had time. I picked up the phone. I said, well, this is happening right now. Because I love to do that. Right. Yeah. And so he and I ended up talking for like 3 hours. And there were so many things that he could not. And again, it's the approach. It's how we communicate. It's how we have the conversations. The way we approach our conversation is going to depend on how that ends, right? So it all depends on how we utilize our words and how we educate. And guys, it's a lot of common sense stuff, right? And I think it's just putting it in a different perspective and really explaining how we all have different perspectives, and that government, you're never going to please everybody. And that sometimes we just have to pick our poison. But at the end of our conversation, that's why my voice is crazy, because I've just been talking a lot. But I told him the same thing. I said, look, brother, my fellow American, at the end of it all, I loved this conversation, and I hope we can have one again. Because he told me he's black first before he's American. So you can imagine the way our conversation went. But it ended being great after I told him that, because he got real quiet and he says, Melinda, you're right. I can agree with you on that. United, we are going to stand, and divided, we are going to fall. I said, so listen, brother, we have to figure this out, right? Because we have to figure it out.
Yeah. And it's all delivery. I agree with you 100%. That's why in our conversations, we try to, like you said, give our perspective, look at other perspectives, and use common sense, think pragmatically, and make this, it's hard to say educated decisions because they lie to us about everything. So it's hard to, know what's truth and what's not. So let's just call them educated guesses or, estimates of what's happening. But it's all in the delivery. And one of the episodes that we just had, we were joking and we call it validation, because everything that's happening, we had been already talking about.
Yeah.
And it's
a lot of validation going on.
Yeah. And one of them, we were talking about the media, right? And how it's failing, and it's, we think it's not going to exist here pretty soon. Look at what's happening with Fox. So, they got rid of Tucker, and, their ratings are just crashing, and they knew that was going to happen. But it's, big pharmaceutical companies that back Fox News, and, even Dominion. Was it Dominion, the one that sued them?
Yeah, Dominion.
So from, the rumors are that part of the settlement was that they got rid of Tucker Carlson. So,
well, of course, because he's speaking the truth, right? He's the loudest and he doesn't care. I mean, even though Hannity does it, I think Tucker just has zero care anymore. Yeah. I mean, and, kind of to a point, I think we Americans watching us go into a communist style path, I think we're all getting to that point, right? And that's what, I was telling my daughter the other day, I said, because she's like, Mom, there was just so much I had to. She goes, I'm going to be honest with you. I started blocking your content because I was getting frustrated. It was just too much. And I said, look, there's an urgency behind this, because as you can see, now she sees it. She even admitted she regrets voting for Biden. She admits she doesn't like what she sees at the border. She's admitting, she goes, I hate Trump, and you will never get me to wear a MAGA hat or a shirt. She goes, but I'll tell you, that man sure knew how to run this country. And as a businessman, he sure did put us in the right direction. So, and I told her, I said, honey, you're more of a moderate, and we have a lot of moderates. I said, you're kind of teetering, but I think a lot of Americans are really seeing the contrast now between Trump and Biden, and some are just so they got their heels dug in, and that pride will not let them admit it. Some are just too far gone to the left.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
I
I mean,
admitting that they've been wrong for so many years, maybe for the majority of their life. So it's
They
hard to
lied
do
to.
that. Yeah.
yeah. And that's the pride they got to get rid of, because, at this point, come on, like, I don't care. And I've said this before. I don't care if you're the most pro-Biden person that ever existed. You know that your quality of life today is harder than it was when Trump was in office. And, I'm talking about gas, food, clothes, anything you buy.
The wars around the world that we're watching,
everything,
sending out money, our border, so much.
It's worse. So it's like those people need to let go of their pride, because we're getting closer and closer into some communism type of, country. And if we kind of want to segue to that, it's like the whole Durham thing, right? That was probably one of the most communist tactics that could have been done. And,
that's treason.
It's treason. Exactly. And, they all knew that this story was made up by Clinton. Every department involved, the FBI, DOJ, the people that are supposed to be, going, hey, hold up, wait a minute. Like, no.
They pushed it harder.
They pushed it harder. And, where does that happen? That happens in communist countries where you have your Department of Justice doing the work of a political party. So that's where we're headed. And people got to get rid of the pride, because we're getting deeper and deeper into that if we don't stop.
No, we are. And it's getting really scary. And that's another thing that my daughter was talking about, and she's like, she asked for my honest opinion. She's like, Mom, do you think we're going to make it through this? And I said, I have hope. And let me tell you why I have hope. I have hope because of what we saw under Trump for 4 years. He was able to remove so much where we quickly started to feel the relief. The world started to feel the relief, right? Because those elites, they're not only in our country, they're across this world. And, that's what I shared with her and we spoke about it. It's like, look at all the billions of dollars that we send to other countries for their people because they live in poverty. Yet you look decades later and they're still in poverty. And they're still dying of diseases, and they're stagnant, but their rulers sure are living that luxurious lifestyle. So, Trump put all of that to an end, right? And I said, so I have faith and I have hope that as long as we get Trump back in there, and that's what it's going to take, that we can survive this. But we're going to have to do some major cleanup, and we got to continue this with all of the people, because while he's in office, there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah. There's what they're trying to instill is that insecurity and that fear, and that's part of their strategy. Because once they have them doubting and fearful of what might come.
It's a good word.
They have to follow, whatever the government is telling them. Yeah. Now, if there isn't, the fear isn't there, and they know that we're going to be okay, then, there's that confidence. People are speaking up, people are talking, and there's that unity there. So if basically what you experience in that conversation is what's happening throughout the entire United States, and that's what they're banking on.
Yeah, definitely. And so, but with Durham, I mean, I know this report just came out, but what I want to see with Durham now, he's supposed to be this bulldog. I want to see, what are you going to do next, Durham? Now you have the information, and you also have the ability and the power to subpoena and put together grand juries and start holding these people accountable. Because until we see that, the American people just don't have faith anymore. Like you said, they instill fear, they instill doubt. There are so many things that we are doubting still. I have no problem saying it, but we still doubt the election. I saw it with my eyes with my sister running, for Secretary of State in New Mexico. We saw it all. We talk every day, and we've spoken with many other people, and we can see what happens. And so they use a state like New Mexico because most people, they know that we we can't do anything to stop them, right? So they're pushing so illegally, pushing so much. But I want to see Durham. And I don't know, I know this sounds a little petty, but I just want to make a bunch of "we told you so" memes.
Yeah,
that validation right there.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about.
No, and I mean,
with Durham, I think what he was trying. Okay, so this took a very long time to develop, right? As far as completing the report, there was a lot of information that they had to go through, a lot of investigating
Around the world too.
Yeah, and but I think part of what he was trying to do is, he went to, I think, Virginia and DC, and he had a couple of hearings there, and everybody got to see how corrupt they were, because they were just straight dismissing everything that they were putting forth with good, evidence. So I think he was trying to show that at the same time. And obviously now we see the FBI, CIA, the Clintons, and, the Democratic Party were all involved with this. So
Obama and Biden.
Obama too, and Biden.
Is so who's going to enforce it? If the FBI was involved, CIA was involved, the entire, Democratic Party was involved, and they couldn't do anything with the court cases in DC and in Virginia, who's going to uphold the law here? And I think
I hope he takes it to the Supreme Court.
There you go. And I think he was trying to show us that that's where it has to go. So that's kind of like you. That's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens.
Because, I mean, that's why we have the, what do you call it? Oh, my God, I'm going blank. The balance of powers, basically, right?
Absolutely.
And in this case, you have the executive and
the legislative
and the judicial, right? And so you got judicial and executive basically colluding with each other.
Absolutely.
So you got to hope the Supreme Court, that balance, it provides it. And these people, because, I think, I don't think it sounds crazy to say that, it's treasonous what they did.
Oh, it is treason.
No,
Absolutely. It's election interference. They interfered with the election.
And my point, too, is, okay, they set the standard. Well, I think New York did, or I forget who, where they gave that guy 10 years for making a meme. So that's a meme, 10 years. You better, for what they did.
We can look up
more than that.
What the penalties for treason is, and it's pretty severe.
Ooh, it's very severe. If we take it back to the 1800s, we all know what happened, back then. I'm not advocating for that. Let me make that disclaimer real quick. But, I think too many Americans just need to stop being fearful.
Yeah.
When a lot of people, when we do get into conversation, they're like, I wish I could do what you do. I said, oh, no, babe, I need you to do what I do. I need you, because she's like, I don't want to lose my job. I said, no, we have no more time for that. Mm-hmm. You see how fast, did you see how fast they did this? Did you see, we can look back now, and all the Democrats play by, it's the same playbook, right? So it's like, we can already see what's happening. Oh, here comes another virus. That's cute. There's no virus coming, and it's not going to work anymore. Like, there really is nothing else that can be thrown our way that's going to be a shocker to us that we're just going to buy in and start. We will never comply again with this government. And so more and more people are starting to say they may not be as bullish as we are in the very beginning, but they're going to start voting, and they are going to really start, really standing with us and talking to their, like my daughter, she's like, Mom, when you do a show, I want to come on with you. Like, she's not even, she goes, when I agreed with you one time years ago, I got so bullied by the people who thought like me that they were so mad at me. But now I think it's very important, Mom, that I come on and speak to, the people. She goes, because I do research, but you extended that. And I said, well, sweetheart, because you're late 20s, early 30s. I'm 51. I still talk to people who are in their 70s. Remember, our generations, the way they have changed and the things that we have gone through. So I can look back at things that I remember in life that you don't even know about. And now I can see the path and we can see. And because I got so involved, right? And that's what she's like, I think I'm ready to be an activist. I mean, this 5-hour talk, and it just made me so happy. And I said, you should become one and start with those in your circle. That's how it begins.
Just want to add something to what you just said right now. So she expressed that she wants to come on and speak, right? And one of the things that, we feel that is very helpful, for other people to hear and to kind of break out of that haze that everybody's in is how did you start realizing the truth? What patterns did you start noticing to bring you out of that thought that you believed that you were supposed to be a Democrat, but deep down, if you were to write it down, as far as your values goes, you end up falling on the right, and you end up realizing that you're a conservative. Yep. So we have those stories, and what you just said, we've talked about is that they target a certain base, and it's usually when people start reaching their late 20s and early 30s is when they kind of start breaking out of that deep sleep that everybody's in, So that's really important. That's really uplifting if, she wants to do that and start speaking about that.
She does. Because she hopes that it would open the minds to other moderates like herself, maybe even those that, aren't moderate, but just have so much pride because she's a mother. So that's big for her, right? As a mother. And there was an incident of child trafficking and being kidnapped that really scared her as well. So, and then you start speaking of open borders, right? And so everything it just started making sense. And so it does take for people like our age to really sit down and have the patience and speak with those that are her age and even bring on older, because it's the only way that we can recognize what life used to look like in America. And because doing the research, and like I tell people, and it's not my mom's fault, it's not my grandmother's fault, but that generation failed us, right? Because they should have been doing what we're doing. We know what happened in the JFK era. We know what happened in the Reagan era. We know how just corrupt our government is, but we didn't have enough people to really stand up. And the government, especially like a state of mine in New Mexico, we're so content with, not having, because when you come from a small town like me, I mean, we're all fighting for the same jobs, right? So we have no choice but to get help from the government. So they keep us that way. So that way, we don't want to we're last in opportunities. So we don't, so certain places, they keep us that way so that we just, become accustomed to being stagnant. That's just the way of life, right? And so I moved away from there almost 20 years ago, moved to Denver, Colorado, then moved to Connecticut, New York with my ex-husband. And I mean, I've learned so much. So it really takes for you to get out there and again, talk to people. That's something I love to do. I love to talk. But it's so important. So I am going to bring her on some shows because she's right. She could really, hopefully change some more minds. She understands the urgency now.
Yeah. No, and that's the thing too. It's like, you just gotta start, right? Cause me and Danny had, I don't know how long, like when it first came up, like, oh, we should do a podcast before we actually did it.
Yeah.
It was some time. And, we started it, last November, I want to say, I think that's right before Thanksgiving. And, it's something that like we've talked about before. It's like, we're trying to get people different perspectives. Right. And if you don't agree with us, fine. But at least, our recommendation is look things up, do your own research. Don't just fall for whatever the media is going to tell you, because, at the end of the day, when no one's looking, then they're going to do the retraction or this or that. And everybody missed it. Right.
Right.
And the more people you have talking about it, and speaking up, and like you said, fighting, because we're not just fighting for today, we're fighting for our kids in the future, right? So that's kind of what I understand. Like when you say, it's not that it's your our grandparents or our parents' fault, but if there would have been more fighting or standing up,
it affected us now, 20, 30 years later.
So imagine all the crazy stuff we're going through now. Like how much crazy, if we don't do anything, how much crazier will it be for our kids in 20, 30 years?
And that's what I told her. And it was like, ding, ding, ding in her head. She was like, oh my God. So I think she understood why I was always going, posting, and because now she understands the urgency. I said, do you see how they were able to change a generation and society, from 10, 20, 30 years ago to where we are today? And look at after Trump, how quickly, because they became so powerful, so how quickly they were able to unwind all of that and push us into a place. I mean, now that's what the open borders are for. They're changing the whole democracy of our country right now. Yeah. And that's going to affect us for the next 20 years.
Yeah. We always talk about talking to our kids. So, I've always talked about an experience where, I started off young at 18 years old, and one of my best friends was 50 when I was at that age. And one of the things that he told me, we had deep conversations, almost like a mentor, like a father figure type. And he tells me, now what your biggest responsibility is. So I started naming off all the things that everybody would think about, but he goes, no, your responsibility is to make sure that young lady is mature, adult, independent by that time she's 18.
Right
now. And I go, now? It's like, it's a newborn. It's like, yes, it starts now.
It does.
Like, okay. And then he goes, and one of his biggest regrets was not knowing his son. Mm-hmm. At the time, his son was 16, about to be 17. And he goes, I don't know what his favorite color is. I don't know who his friends is. He didn't know what his interests were. So he tells me, know your kids. And I took that to heart. And it kind of goes into what we're talking about right now. The school system, what they do, it's they extend the adolescence. So we go back in time, people were mature, independent by the time they were like 14, 15, and 16. They were already doing hard work, and they knew the value of life and money. And what the school system does, like, for example, John Taylor Gatto talks about this in his books, and he was a award-winning teacher, is that they purposely extend adolescence so that independence, rather than being in their teens, they're pushing it off until their late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
And by us communicating with our kids and talking to them and knowing our kids, we start becoming the biggest influence in their life.
Absolutely.
So, we can curb that, instead of them seeing the truth later in life, they could start seeing it as soon as, they're teenagers, 15, 16, and then no one can sway them one way or another. They're independent in their own thoughts, and they know what they're doing. Yeah.
I'm doing that with my oldest grandson's going to be 14 this year. And I have to say, with my three daughters, even, my adopted son, they are all, I think my son even more, is a big Trump supporter. And so, and they understand. But my daughters, in the very beginning, because they're millennials, they were kind of like, oh, that sounded racist. But then I just had one conversation with them, and I'm so thankful that it made sense to them. And they all are just strong conservative women, And so, like my oldest has my 13-year-old and my 14-year-old grandson. She's like, no, Mom, he's going to work this summer. He's going to go mow lawns. He's going to go do stuff because, they make me so proud. All of my girls are entrepreneurs. And you know what I have to say? This is the only good thing that, coming out of New Mexico and really not having the money. None of my daughters went to college. And I think that's what saved him.
That's probably what saved us too.
They didn't, they didn't get brainwashed and they didn't go into debt. So that's sweet.
Thank God I was poor back then, because they didn't go to college and all of them were entrepreneurs. So that was probably the only positive thing. I mean, but they work hard. They run their own businesses. They are strong. They still have the old school mentality. They play the oldies, back in the day. That's how I raised them. And they're raising my grandbabies that way. So, and that's what we have to do. That's what I was telling my adopted daughter when we had that long conversation. I said, because she didn't like the way Trump talked, and she just started really bringing. I said, honey, it's not a personality contest, okay? And they started talking about how he was with women. I said, so you liked the career polished politician like Bill Clinton, but honey, look at what he did in the Oval Office.
Yeah.
So, and what I'm telling people now, and what when I speak to my people, it's look at the policies, not the person. Mm-hmm. The policies is what's going to either excel this country and excel our everyday lives, or it's going to make us fall, one or the other. And so when I was speaking to I don't know his name, he was on IG, but the Black American, and I told him the story that I told you about being invited on calls with Trump. I said, I told him the same thing. Were you invited on any phone calls with Obama to speak to your communities? And I said, but at the end of the day, I said, okay, right now I'm just going to share the words with you. I want you to take the man, okay, and the way you feel about him out of the picture. Just listen to the words. And I shared with him what Trump told us. And I said, now, because he wanted to get lost. I said, take the man and everything out, the words. What do you think about those words? How do you think that would be a community builder? And I could tell he was he really wanted just to find something negative. And he says, I can't say anything bad about that. Mm-hmm. I said, now, that's just one. There were a ton of those types of things. Oh, yeah. But I get it. You guys, and same thing with my daughter. You don't like his personality. She doesn't like, his views on women's rights. And she was mad that Roe versus Wade was overturned. But we had to go into here's what I had to do. Go into the conversation to educate what is the difference between federal and state. State actually has more power. And you don't want to have a Roe versus Wade should have never happened on a federal level. It never should have happened because
they knew it was unconstitutional when it happened.
It was very unconstitutional. So, but look at how long it took. And I had to educate her, right? And show her, and I had her do some more research to understand how states have more power. And she's like, yeah, but Texas is doing this and Mississippi. I said, well, this is why we used to have a lot of activism back in the day. This is when the people used to be involved 1,000%. And it's got to get back to that, because that's what, makes us a country strong, is when each individual state has the people so involved that they are actually in control. And I broke it down. Your county commissioners, the power that they have, your county clerks, your mayor actually has more power than the governor. It's the education process. And how did this happen, mi amigos? They took a lot of this out of our schools. Mm-hmm. And to understand how our country is ran, I mean, I'm old enough. I'm not going to assume y'all's age, but I remember the cartoon, The Bill. Right. Mm-hmm. And they used to sing the songs about how the bills work in DC and how laws are made. That's what, I remember all of that. That is nowhere to be found in this country. My ex-stepdaughter, she got her classes in Connecticut. And instead of teaching civics and American civics, guess what her class was? The rise of Islam. Oh, and there was nothing about the American civics. So when I shared all that with her, she's like, Mom. And I said, and so imagine her generation. Okay. We continue to allow this. That's why there's an urgency. So imagine what she's going to teach her children. And they're right. So we have to take it back, and we have to make sure that we are abiding. I said, and here's the biggest point, and I want everybody out there listening. So the reason why we expect legal immigration, and this is sad, that they have to understand and know the Constitution and the amendments in this country before they can even become a citizen. They're more well-versed than us nationalized Americans that were born here. We have to learn the Constitution. The majority of our kids and the majority of us don't even understand how the Constitution works or the true amendments. But an immigrant coming to become legalized, they have to know that. And that's why it's so important that they go through the legal process before they become an American, so that they understand why we have to protect our Constitution.
Yeah. And I mean, that goes into the whole, border talk too, and wanting border security and immigration and all that. And, I said on the last episode, I was talking with Christian, it's like when we're talking about immigration and the border, it's so much layered than just that, it's anti-Hispanic, anti-this, anti-that. It's like there's so many layers going into the border that, we got to stop, falling for that simplified version that just gets people all emotional and prideful and then they don't start listening to anything. Right. That was the main, when it came to Trump, as soon as he said that about immigrants or, he said bad people or whatever he said.
Yes. Well, he said, everybody said that he was being racist, that he called Mexicans rapists and murderers. I said, if you go listen to it, he said, he didn't say Mexicans are, he said Mexico allows.
Yeah.
It's different. Mexico allows them in.
Yeah. So like, if we're just honest, right. And we know, okay, 7,000 people, let's say, for example, just random number are coming across the border. We're not going to pretend that all 7,000 are saints.
No,
we're not. There's going to be people in there with bad intentions. So, there's that. There's the human trafficking. There's the drugs. There's just so much going on at the border that, I think people have to stop falling for that oversimplified, it's a racism thing.
Yeah. Well, even the Democrats are doing it right now because isn't Chicago, the citizens in Chicago protest or even suing Chicago for allowing the illegal immigrants to go over there?
The buses, they're angry. They're angry because there's inner cities are struggling. They struggled after the BLM riots, right? After Antifa, and they still have a government entity that isn't taking care of them. And now we're going to go and put a whole bunch of people that they have to take care of.
And then I saw this. I could share this clip with you guys. I think it's the mayor of New York, I want to say. And
Adams?
I'm, if I'm not mistaken, I think it's him. And he's asking, they're asking, where's the president? Because I think they're getting an influx of immigrants. Mm-hmm. And then he's like, well, that shouldn't be happening anywhere. So I'll play the video, and then you guys can react to it.
Where the heck is the president of the United States?
That is a good question, and I think we all should be asking, why is this happening to a city that was turning itself around and will continue to do so? This should not be happening to New York City, Chicago, Los Angeles, and the other big northern cities, and really should not be happening to El Paso or Brownsville, Texas. No city should be carrying this burden. It's a national problem, and it needs a national solution.
Right now all of a sudden, when it affects them, all that talk about opening the borders and allowing everybody in, when they get in, now there's an issue. What do you think of that one?
It's at their front door now, right? So I'm in Texas. I was born and raised 2 hours from that border in New Mexico. So I have actual life. When some people are like, oh, you need to stop listening to Fox News. I said, honey, I live on the border. I was raised by the border. I don't need news to tell me. I'm telling you, this is, we need to start listening to each other. But, I think that was one of the greatest things that Abbott could do, because now it's at their front door the way it's at our front door. It's not our policies, right? We're not a sanctuary state, nor do we have sanctuary cities. So if you're really big and you're going to go and campaign in New York and in California and Chicago, we sanctuary cities. We need to protect, those coming here for asylum. They're all asylums. Even the criminals that commit murders and are deported and come back in 5-8 times, they're still seeking asylum, I guess. I'm glad it's at their front door, because now they're getting the validation, because I could just be some idiot, right? That's what they say, that just makes stuff up. But now that it's at their front door, it's validated, and they don't like it.
No, and it shows their hypocrisy. So, I mean,
we have to capitalize on all of those videos, capitalize, because hypocrisy is that, that's one of the biggest things that I hated about politicians. And that was huge for me, and why I voted for Trump, because I was sick and tired. We're all sick and tired of career politicians, sick and tired of them.
Yeah. Well, it just puts everything into perspective for everybody else. Not to change the subject, but we're talking about immigration, and I identified a couple of things that kind of separates family members, even siblings, is that sometimes, like, for example, you use the example of what Trump said, right? And it's being misinterpreted in editing, and we know what the media splices and dices videos and audios, and they've been sued for it, and they don't care, because all they care is about the damage that they cause at the moment.
Yes.
But, I would listen to something like that, and someone would approach me and talk about it. And I go, let me hear the entire clip. Let me hear the context that was being said on. So there's some people that listen to information that way and process it. And then there's some people, to Daniel's point, is they want to hit you emotionally. So they want to pull on those heartstrings, and they want to get you emotional, so that you're not thinking rationally, you're not thinking pragmatically, you're not using common sense, you're just making emotional decisions. So one of the things that I identified is with family members or even friends is that side of it is there's that separation there.
Yes.
And with all of this happening right now, it's at the forefront, and we can start seeing the difference between the immigrants of today and the immigrants of the past.
That's
so
right.
I always use the example that, I'm first generation born here, and my mom and dad came. My dad came first, and my mom was telling me the story of when they were being vetted, to get their green card. And she goes, we had to go to the point where we had to get community letters, like, from church members, the police department.
Oh, that you mean that they were being a part of the community? They were, okay.
Citizens. So they had to present that when they were going to San Francisco for the court hearing to get their green card. So that's how thoroughly vetted you would get in order for you to get your green card or get your working permit here. Wow. And just imagine, so a lot of people carry that guilt, is saying, oh, my parents were afforded that opportunity to come here and become citizens of the United States. And that's why we have the privilege of being born here and having, citizenship. So they had that guilt with these people coming in here and telling them, no, you can't come over, because they carry that guilt. And I tell them, you got to let that go, because you gotta look at the situation now and before. And once you can, separate the two, then you can make a good decision based on what's happening now.
Right. And you're so right. And we have to, this is, my grandmother was born in Monterrey, Mexico. I'm a third generation, so my mom's first generation. And so, they're like, your grandmother would be so upset with you. I said, no, actually, she would be proud of me, because our family did it the right way. And they, and the difference is that we don't live in the same generation than my it's not 1930s anymore. No. We have real issues. We have real cartels. We have real child trafficking, sex trafficking, you have to take that emotional thing out of there and know that it was prideful in my grandmother's time for them to become an American citizen. There was joy behind it. There was so much pride in doing it the right way. And you just didn't see the same issues that you see now. Again, all of the things that I just explained, which would prompt you to enforce the laws to protect our sovereign borders. And that's what's important. And to make sure that people are, because if they're going to come in illegally, then they're already not respecting the laws of the land.
Yeah. And I mean, there's, again, it's like so many layers to it today versus then, right?
Yeah.
I mean, kind of what you were saying, it's like there's real threats now, right? There's people that hate this country.
Terrorists.
That are trying to come in. And, I believe McCarthy was saying something about last month, in February, they caught more terrorists at the border than they had, in a long time. Yeah. And it's like, that's part of it. That's part of the problem. And then you have a lot of, I believe, Chinese nationals coming through the southern border. So,
because we know what they like to do in the Middle East. It's going to take one in every major city. I mean, I don't understand how some Americans cannot even fathom that this could happen. They strap on bombs, walk into populated cities across this country, and why would we even want to take that chance after 9/11? Why? How is it not common sense to want to protect, knowing we've already had terrorist issues and that there are countries that, scream death to America all the time. And if you can't comprehend that they're constantly looking for loopholes and ways to hurt us and kill us, then, we've got a lot of work to do in this country when it comes to communication, education, and really changing what our children are being taught. So we know in our generation, like what I'm doing with my grandkids, and I believe you're homeschooling, right? We have to take matters into our own hands to get through this generation so that my grandkids, your kids, your grandkids can learn from us, and we can, hope for that better generation. And quite honestly, there are more of us than there are the liberals.
I agree. I say that all the time. And I think it's probably, I don't know if it's because I tend to be an optimist, but I don't think it is, but I do feel like we are the majority. It's just,
look at Trump's rallies, look at Biden's rallies. You can't compare it.
Yeah. And we, was it a couple of episodes ago, we showed the chart of homeschooling, how it's skyrocketed in the past 3 years. And I mean, the proof is across the board, and people are demonstrating it in different ways. Look at when they start running certain ads, they start talking with our dollars. They start going in, the opposite direction.
Bud Light. You're talking about Bud Light?
Yeah, Bud Light. I heard about Sports Illustrated yesterday. So we'll see what happens with Sports Illustrated. I mean, they want to, the powers to be on their side told them to run that.
I saw a Ford ad today.
Bud Light. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I saw a Ford ad where they had a raptor painted in the freaking LGBT flag. I almost shed a tear.
Oh my goodness!
I saw that earlier today too.
And then we also have to remember that a lot of that stuff is background noise. They're trying to keep us distracted, and I feel that they do that because why this guy? Why this trans guy? Why are they trying to? They keep us doing this. They keep us all over the place so that we aren't focusing and paying attention. We have to be, laser focused on what our job is right now in this country. And that is the people, the fourth branch of government becoming much more powerful than the other three branches, and really taking our country back. And, but again, like I told my daughter, it's going to start, and this is how Trump, it's going to take city by city. The mayor needs to be making sure we're holding them accountable. Those commissioners up next to your sheriffs, right? Your judges, your governor. I mean, just imagine. And so if we don't get our communities involved that way, then there's always going to be somebody trailing, and, we're never going to get there. I mean, I I have faith that we can, but I do really feel we need Trump to like push everybody else behind us so that we, the people, can actually do what we have to do, because they just hold our head underwater.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%, is that they're all distractions. And if you think that we've got distractions right now with Durham coming out with this information, the whole court case with Arizona and the Kerry Lake, with everything that's developing there, that thing is not over, but they're not talking about it in the media. So to your point, they're having us distracted with all of these things that don't matter. Durham, I think they just talked about it a little bit on some networks, but they're not going into depth.
It was probably here and then gone.
Yep, exactly. But then here comes, the Sports Illustrated and the Ford ads. And remember, Daniel, when we were talking about what was happening in Chicago, and everybody started being really emotional about that?
How they want the reaction.
Yeah, and that's exactly what they want. They want that violent reaction, separation, what you were talking about, having us going like this. Mm-hmm. So we kind of brought it back and said, hey, you know what? What we should do is hold the people that allowed that to happen accountable. Yep. And not start bashing on the citizens themselves, but because that's exactly what they want. They want us separated.
So let's unite. Let's unite. That's what I've been talking to all those people that I've had these long conversations. That's my voice is raspy, but I'll do it. I don't care. I'll continue to talk for 5 hours if I have to. That's what it takes. But, and really make a difference. Is it going to make a difference fighting and posting memes about Devaney? It's funny. I did it. But, it's going to be more impactful when we are coming together as a community, holding every single person who took an oath to protect the Constitution and protect the people. Again, you guys, your clerks, your commissioners, your sheriffs, your judges, your state Senate, your state House, your state Supreme Court, your state judges, your DAs. Whoo, we can go on. Yeah. It's time that we really get into our communities and make that happen.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Just two more different topics that I want to make sure we cover. Yeah. This one I saw literally 30 minutes before we came on, and I hope this one goes through. So this is Anna Paulina, and she introduced a resolution to expel Schiff from the House of Representatives.
I didn't see that.
So they literally just was like, I saw it right before we came on, so I was like, oh, I got to share this because we don't like Schiff at all. So
we don't like his Schiff ways.
Obviously he was one of the biggest liars out there to the American public, and
of the Russia collusion. He pushed it the most. Yeah.
And we told people, I think one of our first 2 episodes is don't trust Schiff. Everything that guy has said, will come out as a lie. And, with that Durham report, it just, boom, cements that. And so I hope, people like that, I think we had talked about it before, Denny, where it's like, all right, well, he's on TV. He can say whatever he wants to say. There's no quote unquote standard, right, for him to be on TV and he's not under oath, right? So politicians like that, we've said this before, have no morals. So what he's going to do is he's going to lie to the public because he's not under oath. He can get away from it, and he stays in power. You know what I mean? Those kind of people need to be when it's figured out, when it's found out, there's evidence that he lied to the country like that, he should be kicked out of government, expelled from any position he has, or potentially running from government ever again.
Oh, that's and he was strong about it. He was, it happened. And remember, he even did his own little monologue to
his interpretation of the poem.
Yeah, his interpretation of it. He's disgusting. He is so disgusting. And I'm so proud of you, Ana Paulina. Kudos to you. Gracias, amiga, for really getting in there. We need more people like her. I have a lot of people in my community and my family, and some people that, are you going to run for office one day, Melinda?
You were going to ask that.
Were you going to ask me that? Well, here's my answer. I would love to run for office. My fear is that we know my Latina blood. If I were to be in the halls with, likes like AOC, I would probably be in timeout a lot in there. So no, and I love being an activist because I don't have anybody tying my hands, right? Or I have to bite my tongue. So, I mean, I would probably be like a Boebert or like a Marjorie Taylor Greene, and, but you just throw in some of that Latina spice.
They get down too. When they speak, they don't hold back. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But what I tell people is like, look, I've prayed to God a lot about it. And I said, if God walks me down that path and, that's where he leads me to go, I will walk it. So,
yeah, no, that's, I mean, I don't know if it's crossed Danny's mind at all, but I know like at least once or twice it's crossed my mind. It's like, maybe I got to do that too.
We have to.
You know what I mean? And we'll see what happens. Right.
Yeah.
But we right now, we're not in government, so we're doing what we can with our voices and whatever platforms
which
we
is
have.
Just as important, you guys. Which is just as important because there's so many more of us than there is a government. So there's so much more work to do on this side, right? That and that still to today there aren't enough of you and I. So, and we cannot trust the media. So I love doing what I do. So I don't know what would ever happen if I ever will run for office.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to try to change as many minds as possible. Right. Yeah. But hey, as long as you change one mind and then that person goes and changes another one, you start a little chain reaction. Hey, that's all you need, right?
But on the flip side, we do got to have good, honest people in there, though, right? Because we could educate everybody, but if we got crooks that lie, and say I'm a Republican, even though we know that they're a progressive, just to go in there and side, it's just such a catch-22. There's so much coming at us that we've got to pay attention to.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time. Is that we've used the example, the people that are likely to go to the top are probably the people that they lack a little bit of morals because they'll do anything to get what they want. And I think that's a representation of, some of the people that we do see representing, whether it's the state or, the federal government or anything like that. So you're right. We do need more good people out there. But again, the optimist in me is, some of these people are not elected. They're appointed.
They're selected.
They're selected.
They selected. There you go. That's the proper word to use.
That's communism, AKA communism.
I truly believe that. And you just go with, history. And the history is that those Dominion machines were used in other countries like Venezuela, where there's, widespread corruption. And they're just using the same played out tactics that, we're catching on to. Yep. And hopefully 2024, they can't do what they've done in the past. And, our vote will be overwhelming and, we'll get Trump back in there.
I pray so.
Yeah, for sure. And then, kind of one more topic is, there's another video I want you guys to watch. I don't know if you've seen it, but just kind of, listen to it and then just see what you guys think about this one.
There's a misconception that all white nationalists have to be white. But let's look at Hispanic white nationalists like Proud Boys leader Enrique Tarrio and online political activist Nick Fuentes. What have you seen in regards to non-white people becoming advocates for white supremacist ideas?
Thanks so much for having me, Katie, on. It's having me on, Katie. It's great to be back. The Latino identity, the Hispanic identity, the Latinx identity is incredibly complex. It is not exclusively a race. It is not exclusively an ethnicity. It creates a lot of room for for extremist views like white supremacy. One of the phenomena that we've seen over especially recent years is misinformation, disinformation, and radical narratives being pushed into Spanish-speaking communities.
So I'll let you guys react first, and then I'll tell you what I think.
I'll tell you what I think. It's an old, played-out tactic. It's called language. So they change the definitions. They're trying to change a definition on us and confuse the heck out of us. They did it with the vaccines. They changed the definition of vaccine. They've done it over and over and over. Mm-hmm. And this one is so far out ridiculous that I would question anybody that would take this serious.
Yeah. Well, this only solidifies that they've lost the Latino vote. Okay. Yep. So they have lost the majority of us Latinos that they now we're going to become the white supremacists. And, there's another reason why we have a wide open border to allow more from the Latin countries to come in, because we naturalize, Americans that are of Hispanic Latin descent. We are naturally conservative, and the majority of us have woken up to this nonsense of the Democrat Party, and it shows. So now they have to come up with all this new stuff. Oh, now there's Hispanic white supremacists. I would literally laugh in somebody's face if they were to ever come close to me and even say that, because it's utter nonsense. There is no such thing as a white supremacist Hispanic. Now it's just becoming comical.
Yeah, no, I like at the end how he said that, what did he say? Misinformation in Spanish language. It's like, I only know Univision and Telemundo, and they're riding hard for the left. So I don't know. I'd love to see the Spanish.
Well, that would be you, Daniel.
Talking about me?
Yeah, they're talking about you.
Yeah.
I've heard it all now. I have heard it. I mean, I've been called a coconut. So yeah. I guess that's coming next, that I am now a Hispanic white.
Well, I guess I've always been.
I'm going to go get the T-shirts, you guys. I'm going to go get the T-shirts.
Yeah, no, I just thought it was funny, like, also to have, I'm not too big on race, but to have a white guy speaking on Hispanic, Latin white supremacist, supposedly, it was just ridiculous.
Well, remember what Malcolm X said? He said that it's the white liberal are the ones that need to, we need to watch out for.
Yeah.
So, just saying.
That's
that
true.
Goes for us as well. But I think I'm going to go have a T-shirt made. I'm not joking. I'm not joking.
But
I'll wear it proudly.
Yeah, it's that's the thing, right? That, as long as we keep speaking up and we're able to, hey, we see that clip and then we respond to it or something, right? Where it's like, nah, that's not true. And secondly, it's like, have a Latino on, a conservative one. He or she will explain to you why it is that they're, they left the left, or they were never there in the first place, either, whatever it is.
I'm dying to go on CNN.
And, anyone, Univision, anybody, they won't have it. And if they do, it's people that aren't even allowed to. It's like when Trump had the town hall and the lady would ask the question, he's trying to answer, and then she's interjecting with her opinion or her narrative. And it's like, they do the same thing when you have Latinos conservatives on those Spanish media. It's like they don't get the opportunity to really explain or to tell the people what's really going on. You know what I mean?
No, because that way they can spin it.
Yeah, exactly.
They just get, just little pieces, and they cut it, edit, and then they spin it. So that's why they're irrelevant anymore. And, we have to just continue to be the voice. And I really hope that we can do that with LUCA as well. And, bring on you guys too. I mean, there's just so much that we have planned, and just keep on going.
Yeah, that's true. 2024 is coming. It's going to be here quick. And, we've been talking about it before, the way time flies in general, in just life. 2024, the election's going to be here next week.
Tomorrow,
It'll probably feel like it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, that's kind of, as far as me personally, what I feel, it's like, okay, yeah, I got to do my best to like try to step it up. You know what I mean? When I see things that aren't correct or something that's like, oh, they're gaslighting. I gotta say something, and so that's kind of what I'm gonna do. So
awesome.
You might see me post more than usual. So but it's just I'm trying to spread the word. Clarify some stuff.
Yeah.
And see what happens, right?
That's all we can do, and keep talking to those in your circle, in your communities. I mean, sometimes, we even get in conversations with total strangers sometimes.
Yeah. So I guess to finish it off, where can people find you and all that, website or whatever it is that you have?
Yes. So for me, you can find me if you do Melinda Ann, or you can also if you do a search of hashtag New Mexit, that's NEWMEXIT. It'll take you to all of my platforms. Same with LUCA. We are on Twitter. We are on Instagram. We are on Facebook. We are even on TikTok. So, and I'm on all of those as well. So like I said, you can either find me through hashtag New Mexit, or you can Melinda Ann, just Google and it'll take you to all of my platforms. Por Dead Latino for LUCA, it's www.pordeadlatino.org. That'll take you to our website as well, where you can start. We have a great writer. We're going to start doing a lot within our website as well.
Cool. Awesome. That's good. Yeah, we'll keep it. What do you call it? We'll keep doing this. We'll keep trying to speak with more people.
I'm happy to come back. And like I said, when we get started, I'll bring you guys on. That's how we're going to make this happen, right?
Yeah. We gotta unite, right? I think, that's why I chose that word when I did the lead unite, is because, we need there. I think I said it before on the live we were on last time. I believe there's a lot of leaders out there. Right. Mm-hmm. I consider you a lead, Danny, everyone else we were on that live with. I consider a lot of people leads. Yeah. And the way we're going to win this is if we get together. If we're fractured and all separated, we might still make an impact. But imagine if everyone's united and, fighting for, the future, basically. Right. Because that's today. It sucks. It is what it is today. Yeah. But, we can't let it continue. So. That's the goal.
Yeah. New Mexico. So guys, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. I loved this conversation. And, I really hope that a lot of the listeners and the viewers out there that will watch this today or watch it, throughout the days can kind of maybe understand the value of communicating, and hopefully we can all, like you said, do this together, just become united. It's so important. We don't need to be different organizations. We need to be a bunch of organizations with our arms locked together.
Exactly. Yeah. So, we're ready for whoever wants to work and get this done. We're here.
That's great. Thanks, guys.
All right, cool. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
All right. Take care.
Bye.